Welcome to Navigating Life After 40, the podcast that's all about helping women navigate this exciting and sometimes challenging phase of life. I'm your host, Ronnie J, and I'll be here sharing some of my own personal experiences, chatting with experts and a few friends, and also providing some practical advice and support to help you live your best life after 40. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to Navigating Life After 40. I am your host, Ronnie. I hope each of you are doing well, as usual. I always want you to do well. So today we are going to be talking about a important topic. I think all of these topics are important, but there are some that really stand out that I think we don't really focus on in this stage of life. And that is motherhood after 40. So we're going to talk a lot about that. I have a special guest here, Coach Ree. Hi, Coach Ree.
Hey,
How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, nice. Thank you for being here. All right, you guys, I'm going to share a little bit about Coach Ree here, and then I'm going to allow her to tell us anyway a little bit more about herself. So, Coach Ree, she is a certified coach. She is the owner of Alternative Approach Coaching. She has a BA in sociology and an MA in psychology, and she also has over 10 years of experience as a certified coach. And she's an amazing coach too. So I do know Coach Ree. She is an amazing coach. She also specializes in helping moms prioritize their mental health so that they can show up as their best selves, which is amazing because we know that moms oftentimes they show up for everyone else, but they don't always take the time to show up for themselves. She's also the mother of 4, and she recently gave birth to her 4th cutie pie at the age of 40. Oh my God, he's so cute. He's so cute. All right. All right. I hit it. I hit all the points. I hit the
Yeah.
points. So we want to get a little bit more background about you, and we'll start. Before I start this, though, I know that you just turned 40, and I would love to know. First of all, congratulations.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the club.
Thank you.
What do you love most at this moment of being 40? Like, what are you enjoying so far?
Oh, that is a fully loaded question. What I will say I am enjoying is this newfound freedom and this
Mm,
identity. I feel like I know myself much better than ever before. And
yes,
God and we are in alignment. So that's what I'm enjoying the most about being 40.
I love that. I love that. How did you get started in your work as a coach helping moms?
Whew, this goes way back.
Hmm.
So when I was younger, let's say middle school, high school, people were always reaching out to me for support and just being that listening ear. And as I grew older and got my background in psychology, I started working with adolescents before I started working with moms. And then I went from working with adolescents to working with couples and then working with individuals again. And I just realized that my niche should be working with moms because of the fact that I have so much expertise in that area, considering the fact that I'm not just a coach, but I'm also a mom myself. So there's a lot of things that I could relate to my clients about.
Nice, nice. I love that. I know you guys, funny story, and every now and again, Lynetta, we we get tickled about this. Um, but I remember it wasn't the first time I met her, but we were in a space together, and I remember just God had dropped into my spirit this word he shared it with me, and I said it in this meeting. I should have did it that way. I had to clean it up a little bit and tell everybody we're all great, but but she's gonna be da 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 da. And so I still believe that God has something special for you. And of course, I'm always praying for you and for Him to just continue to direct your path, because I think what you're doing is great. And I think you do have a lot to offer um, moms out here and also other individuals as well. So yes, I just wanted to drop that little nugget in there because that always comes back to my mind. And every now and again, you guys, I can be in some strange places, and I'll never forget. I used to box every day, and I'll never forget being in a class and I was boxing, and the guy who was leading the class, he was an actual boxer, but he was an actor too. I didn't know
Mhm.
he was an actor. And I'm boxing, I'm talking to this lady next to me the whole time. I'm like, yeah. And we're like, get it out, get it out. And we're beating up the bag and stuff. The whole time we get to the end of the class, I didn't know that was this man's mom until he
Wow.
we got to the end. He always has this inspirational message that he does, and he has us standing in front of the mirror, and we're doing these different boxing sentences. And at that time, during the class, actually, the Lord spoke to me and told me something about him as an actor. I had no clue he was an actor until we
Mm-hmm.
got in front of that mirror, and he shared that with the class that he was an actor. And then he pointed to this lady and said, yeah, my mom, she's been rocking with me. And I was like, yo, his mama the whole time. I said, they just told me, like, if he don't stop us from doing it, I'm fussing about him and everything. But every now and again, those things drop. And I'll never forget telling him that. And I reached out to him on social media and I told him what was shared with me. But yeah, I just sometimes I'm like, Lord, you tell me these things, but they be coming
Yeah,
sometimes at these strange times. But I guess they're not strange to him because otherwise he wouldn't drop them at those moments. So I
exactly.
back to I took a detour, but back to our conversation. And also, so you guys know, I am like going between hot and cold. So if you hear this noise in the background, it's probably my heater. Um, but I'm going between hot and cold today. All right. So, as we talk about your personal journey into motherhood, what are some of the factors or experiences that led you to consider or pursue motherhood at this stage in life? Like, I know you just had your fourth baby, and
Mhm.
again, he's a cutie pie.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering what led or you to pursue that. Was this a planned thing, or was this something that was not planned?
That is such a great question. And before I jump into this, I want to also thank you for those kind words of encouragement and also for just sharing with me that God spoken word that you just shared over my life. I do accept and I receive that. But as far as what made me choose to become a mother once again at this age, it was planned. What happened was the year prior, before I had became pregnant with this last child, I had a miscarriage, which was
Mhm.
not planned. That child was not planned, and it made me decide maybe we should, try one last time and see what will happen. Because the grief that came from that miscarriage, it was profound. I had never experienced that before. I have friends, family, associates that came forth and shared their stories with me. And just going through that experience, it made me grateful for the children that I do have here on the earth side. And it also just enlightened me to, hey, I do actually really truly want to do this one last time. And the
Mhm.
goal was to do it before 40, hopefully, fingers crossed. But I had my son after 40, which was perfectly fine. It's all about God's timing and God's plan, and it worked out. And I'm extremely grateful for that because the way that I am now at 40 is much different than I was when I was pregnant at 19 with my oldest.
This. I do have a question because I was doing my research and I was looking at different stories of women who are having children now at a later stage in life. Um, and they talked a little bit about, society's expectations that they have and the pressures that they put on women. Did you experience any of those societal pressures that most women experience?
I experienced being a part of that grind and hustle culture, which is why my children are spread out.
Hmm.
I also experience a lot of perfectionism as a mother because motherhood does not come with a manual. However, many people want to interject and share their advice, their recommendations, their suggestions, and things like that. So I did get really caught up with being a perfectionist as a mother. And one thing that I learned was there's progress, there's no perfection with motherhood.
Hmm.
Every child that we have is different. Uh, like I have two kids that are on the autism spectrum and two kids that are not.
Hmm.
So, societal pressures, I no longer allow them to hold me down because I have to look at God for guidance and for my
Hmm.
support when it comes down to how it is that I need to raise my children.
Yeah, I love that. And how do you work with those moms who do still experience those pressures of society? And so they're like, we have so many moms who feel like I'm not a good mom because I'm not able to do this, or they're still struggling with trying to balance work with motherhood, or yeah, how do you help support moms who also deal with those struggles?
Yeah, the first things first is mothers have to understand that you're a mom and you have other identities to juggle as well. And I know for speaking from my own personal experience, I got lost in the fact that I'm a mom, I'm a mom, I'm a mom. And I didn't think about all the other things that I am. And I lost
Hmm.
myself for a while. So, in knowing that I lost myself, I can understand and relate to women that also feel the same. And how I help will them back in, rein them back in, is for some, we need to get to a space of self love instead of just constantly pouring and pouring and pouring into the child or children, pour more so into self, like
Hmm.
prioritize yourself. And sometimes we have to do that first thing in the morning, as well as the last thing before we go to bed. I know I have to, because
Hmm.
otherwise I'm pouring from an empty cup. So that's one way that I support them. Also, um, mothers that are just without a support system, because there are some that struggle with maybe not having a mate. I have a
Hmm.
husband, but I haven't always had a husband. I was a single mother for 10 years of the years that I have been a mom. So I also understand how it could be challenging not having that helpmate. But how is, who are the other people in your family or your friends or associates? Who are other people that you could lean on and rely on for support outside of just, your children?
Yeah, yeah, and I love that that first piece, especially. I think that as I mentioned earlier, a lot of moms forget that piece, which is to take care of yourself first, how to put yourself as a priority. And there are so many who say, I don't have the time. How do I find the time? What would you say to those moms who are struggling to find the time to fill their cup? What would you
Yeah.
say to those moms?
I love that you just mentioned that because I have so many clients that is their thing right there. I don't have time. I remind them, hey, we have 24 hours in a day. A lot
Hmm.
of the times we're dedicating 8 to 12 hours towards work, whatever other time we're dedicating towards the children. But where can you find 5 to 30 minutes every single day where you can prioritize yourself? And even if there's an excuse or a reason like, oh, well, I still can't find the time, you might just have to block a chunk of time and dedicate that time. This is me time. This is my
Yeah.
time. And sometimes you just have to make the time because in my 24 hours, I am extremely busy. But between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., I'm going to find the time to go to the gym. And in the evening time, when the kids lay down to go to sleep, I'm also going to find time to create some space for myself because otherwise I'll be spinning my wheels going crazy around here.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because sometimes it requires that you may have to wake up early, a little
Hmm.
bit earlier, an extra hour early just to get that time for yourself. And there are
Right.
some moms who are just like, I'm so exhausted. I have to, how do I even do that? I remember, hearing stories about that and I would feel so sad for moms because I would think, well, where would you find the time? That makes sense if you're tired and you just want to sleep in. But it sounds like from your perspective, it's also about how do you prioritize your schedule, your time. So it's yes, I'm dedicating this 8 hours to work, but I also have my routine set with my children where when they're in bed, this is my time to take advantage of this. And then I get up a little bit extra earlier for myself in these areas here. So thank you for sharing that. As you were talking too, it made me think about when I was coaching and I would get those type of cases and I would be like, what about 5 or 10 minutes? And I would feel stuck because I was like, I don't know. I don't know what direction to go here because if you can't find 5 or 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes, then where do you get the time from? And I remember even telling some moms that what about your ride home from work? If you have to go drive back and forth to work, how do you utilize that time and that space when you're by yourself to do something for you? It might be listening to some music that's very common. It might be using that time to have your prayer time or your conversation with God or your higher power.
Hmm.
It could just be using that time to sit in the car and scream. Whatever it is you want to do in that commute home. So I love that you're able to really find space for yourself. And again, I know that that's also a struggle for women. And then especially as women get older, it seems like priorities become, and I'm not just gonna say older. It seems like just in our society now, everything is busy. We're always busy. It's always something going on. And when we
Right.
think we have a moment, something else pops up. And it's easy to get caught up in that and forget about ourselves. It's easy to do that.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to add, as you were discussing how we could have like these micro moments in the car, it could also be just when washing dishes. I recently made a post on
Mm,
Instagram about washing dishes. Sometimes you could just get lost in feeling that water on your hands and kind of like do a grounding exercise. It doesn't have to be 5 minutes, it could be 2 minutes. It could be
yeah,
just going outside in the backyard, the front yard, wherever you're at, and just taking a couple of deep breaths, just woo-sawing, getting away from the kids for a moment. There are a lot of ways that you could be flexible with creating the extra space and time throughout the day. I do a little bit of everything. Like when I'm driving in the
hmm,
car, if the kids are not with me, I will just drive in complete silence sometimes.
hmm,
But that's the thing when you're a coach, you're helping people problem solve and
yeah,
figure out like what can I do instead
yeah,
of what I cannot do or what I don't have time to do. What can I do or what would life look like if I implemented this, throughout my day?
yeah. I like that. Focus on the cans and the cannot.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
like that. What can I do? If I can just implement something into my day, how would that make me feel? What would my day look like? I like that. Focus on the cans and the cannots.
Yeah, life
That's
life life is busy, but you know what? A lot of my clients that are moms, they spend a lot of time scrolling on social media. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, scrolling,
Mm,
scrolling, scrolling. So if we could scroll, scroll, scroll an endless amount of time, then we could find time to do other things besides scrolling that can make us feel better mentally, physically, and spiritually so that we can better support ourselves as well as the children.
yeah, true. That is a very true statement. Because I think a lot of times when we talk about self-care,
Hmm.
the first thing that comes to some people's mind is exercise and working out. And that's not necessarily what self-care encompasses. That's a piece
Hmm.
if that's what you choose to do, because that may not be everybody's thing. But for some people, that's what they think of first. I don't have time to work out. I don't have time
Or I can't afford to go get a massage or whatever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But it's these other little small things that you can do. As you mentioned, there's 2 minutes here that you can take, or go step outside and take a deep breath. We forget about those small things that are also pieces of self-care as well. Um, and that is a good reminder. I know I have an episode coming up talking about self-care for busy women, and that's something that I know I point out in there is how do you just find these small moments to take, you know, because everybody thinks it has to be 30 minutes, it has to be an hour, and it doesn't. It has to require spending money, or
Yeah.
and it doesn't require that. It could be whatever it is. Self-care looks differently for everybody, and it's what you want it to be and what's going to help you feel better about yourself. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that. Yeah.
sure thing. Because sometimes my self care is completing a word search puzzle.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's coloring in an adult coloring book. Sometimes it's going to Five Below and buying a pair of socks. So it really just it depends. It just
Yeah.
depends. It varies from person to person what self care looks like.
Yeah, I love Five Below, by the way.
Oh yes.
That's one of them places I go in there. I'll be like, by the time I get up there, I'm like, I didn't mean to spend all of this now. It's supposed to be $5.
Exactly. Hmm. I need to go there today after this. After we do this.
So I have a question for you too about, I want to shift a little bit. As I was also doing my research, I know that with moms, there is who choose to have children at later phases of life. There are sometimes can be a lot of challenges and concerns about that. And some women are okay with taking that risk. And I'm wondering, were there any challenges that you faced um, during this last pregnancy? I know they say once you get 35 and older, your chances of certain things are higher. And by the way, just to throw this plug in, this is not medical advice. We're just
Mhm.
having a conversation about what those challenges are. But were there any challenges that you faced during um, this childbirth at all, since it was one that was later in your life?
No, I had no challenges besides gestational diabetes, which anyone
Mm-hmm.
could get that. I was pregnant at 36, pregnant at 39, and with both pregnancies, I kept hearing that I'm at advanced maternal age.
Mm-hmm.
This is a geriatric pregnancy. There's all these risk, which is
Yeah.
true. It's true. I'm not going to say that there's not, but at the same time, I was willing to take the risk and I was willing to trust the process of pregnancy. I mean, the child or children could have lived or they might not have. I also
Mm-hmm.
had to trust the fact that, hey, I have a God that is the creator of what is brewing inside of me, and
Yeah.
trust that however the child or children came out, that it has been divinely created, not by man, but by God. So however this child comes out, then I'm going to deal with whatever it is, whether it's a healthy, happy baby or if it's a colicky crying baby, or if it's a child with special needs, because I do already have kids with special needs. So
Hmm.
whatever it was going to be, I was willing to take those risks. But I was blessed. Like I said, I only had gestational diabetes, and I'm saying only because it could have been other symptoms and situations, which I did not. But I also was very active during my pregnancy too. So that's
Yeah.
another thing. When people are thinking about the risk, let's also think and talk about, well, what are some of the things that you can do to kind of uh, prevent some of the, like, high blood pressure, for instance. What can you do to try to prevent high blood pressure? What can you do to try to prevent gestational diabetes? So a lot of, eating healthy, exercising, staying hydrated, a lot of the things that I've learned as a health coach were some of the things that I implemented throughout the pregnancy, which let me know, like, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll be all
Yeah.
right.
And I remember when you were pregnant, and she was very active, and y'all, my nerves used to be on 10.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Over there worried about me more than I was worried about myself.
To be fussing like, oh my God, my nerves will be so bad. And I don't know why, because it's like she had like three other babies, so but I don't know, it was just like, you gotta sit down somewhere, put your feet up,
It
stop
had to be the
moving.
age. It had to be probably like the age thing. Like, I'm older now and I'm carrying, so it probably was, it might have been just some of the age, my age could have been a factor there.
It
But yeah,
could have. It could have. I don't know if that came up for me though. I just was like, she needs to sit down somewhere. That's all I used to think, but she was very active,
mhm,
and she does have a very active life. She does do things that are fun and enjoyable and relaxing for herself, and I appreciate that because she shares that with us,
yes,
and it's amazing. And we'll get to her Instagram page and all of that as well once we get towards the end. But would love for you all to follow her because she shows you her life. This is her life, which is a great example of what moms, um, for moms, to show them like you can have this balance. You can have
mhm,
some form of balance in your life. It doesn't have to always be about kids, kids, kids. What are you doing for yourself too?
that's it.
Um, So, what would you say have been some of the most rewarding aspects of being a mother right now, especially at this stage in life?
Oh my goodness. So much to be grateful for. First of all, my patience is, I am so patient compared to how I was when I turned 20 with my first child.
Hmm.
Oh, patience, just the gratitude knowing I have this human that's living, breathing, relying on me for all the things. Um, all of that is just so, it makes the experience just so much more rewarding and so full. Just being grateful every day, knowing that I'm making an impact on the world because I'm teaching my children about emotional intelligence. I'm teaching my children about mindfulness. I'm teaching my children how to self regulate and things like that. So when they get out there in the world and they're 40 and up or even younger, they're able to navigate different relationships and friendships and, be good people in
Yeah,
general. I'm raising very well-rounded human beings, and that's something that I appreciate at this age because it's something that I did not receive when I was their age.
yeah, yeah. I like that so much. We need more parents to teach children to be more well rounded, and especially that emotional intelligence is so
Mhm.
important. And you're right, as we age, sometimes our patience gets a little bit better. And I noticed that for me, I'm a lot more patient with my nieces and nephews compared to when I was in my 20s. And and they would want to come and stay and visit over the weekend. And I'm like, don't go in my room. Don't do this. Don't do that. And so now it's a little different where I'm not um, all anxious about it and um, fussy.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're trying to be in my business, I do have one that loves to be in my business. So, um, but yeah, I will say that at this stage, for a lot of people, there is a level of patience that takes place, and you're able to really spend that time nurturing your children in a way that sometimes when you're younger, you may not always have the tools to do it. But then also too, you're an ex at this point I feel like you're an expert. So
Mm-hmm.
you've had the babies, and I used to tell you like your baby boy, he's gonna be spoiled because he's in the house with our
Yeah,
girls. So
yeah.
he's gonna be spoiled. Um but I also feel like you're going to you're an expert, and at this stage you're an expert. You've done this three other times. Now here you are now, and you're able to not only take the things that you've learned with the previous three, but also other things that you're learning now, especially that EI, because EI is a really popular topic right now,
Mm-hmm.
and really implement those with your children. So thank you for being that mom. I would love to see more moms step up and do
Yeah,
that. Sometimes when I'm on social media and I see the videos of kids in schools, and I'm just like, what is
fringe.
what is happening at home? Yeah, it's disturbing. Yeah,
It is.
very disturbing. So as we move into some advice for our moms, what would you say your support, or what are the supports or resources you believe are essential for women who are contemplating experiencing motherhood at this stage in life?
First and foremost, I would say a huge support for myself as well as for others is some type of higher power. It doesn't have to
Mhm,
be God. It could be the God of your own understanding for sure.
mhm.
Just to lead you and guide you and help you decide if this is what you really truly want to do, because it's not easy. I hear a lot that I make it look easy, but
Yeah,
if I were to record what a day in my life is like, you would be like, wow, from sun up to sundown, like we're over here getting it popping all day
yeah,
long. So definitely seeking some higher power for wisdom with that. Um, Also having a conversation with your primary care physician, wanting to make sure that everything is in alignment within your body. Also make sure that everything is good in your mind, because mothers are managing not just jobs, but managing a whole entire household. And with that
mhm,
being said, a mom's mind, body, spirit, everything needs to be somewhat aligned so that when the stressors of the world come along, you know how to deal with that and navigate around it and maneuver so that you can still show up for your child.
yeah, yeah,
And just having a really good, solid support system. I mean, good friends are hard to find. I'm blessed that I have an awesome tribe, but link up and connect with other people that are mothers, whether it's through like the Baby Center app or um, social media, Facebook groups and things like that, just to get an idea of if this is really what you want. And I think that's a good start.
yeah. I like that. And I never knew a baby center app exists. I probably wouldn't know though. But baby center app, and I'll definitely be sure to drop that
Mhm.
resource in the description as well, so you guys can have access to that. But I do know Facebook is always one of those places that I always encourage people to go to. Whenever people talk about support, so I don't have support, or my kids are in school and I don't know a lot of other moms, and I get it too, because you also don't trust your children with everybody. You don't know these people.
Right.
Um, but being able to have those spaces where you can go, and even in your own town, in your own city where you're living, there are groups on Facebook for that. And I always hear people say, "Well, that's for Facebook is for old people." That's all right. We over 40 over here. We'll do
We
Facebook.
out here.
So um,
Here.
go and find, yeah, and find those um, spaces in your city. You can go pull them up on Facebook, and that's an opportunity to connect with other moms, other women, and a lot of times they have meetups, and you have this opportunity to get to know them. And sometimes it's bring your children. I see those in some of the groups that I'm in. They'll do something with just the moms and the children, and I think that's great. And that gives you an opportunity to build those relationships, which hopefully over time can help you build that support system that you need. And it might be where, hey, you know, can my kid come and play with your kid while I go and run a couple errands? It could build up to that, but you'll never know until you start and you put yourself out there. It's just taking one step at a time, and um, but it can definitely be done. You mentioned doctors. Yeah, and I had a conversation about doctors in a previous episode. Um, how do you think healthcare professionals, because we know that that looks different for a lot of women, but especially for Black women. So, how do you think healthcare professionals can be more supportive of women who are choosing to have children at a later point in life? Because we know they bring up these terms. Whenever I hear geriatric pregnancy, I get tickled. And it just tickles me for some reason because I'm like, you sound like I'm 70 or something. Like this person is 70 or whatever. And so, how can those healthcare professionals be more supportive of women who are choosing to have children at this phase in their life?
Oh, wow. For one, just the stigma that's associated with having children later in life. Like
Hmm.
there's certain terminology, just like the AMA, advanced maternal age, and geriatric pregnancy. Like we first and foremost need to get away from using those words.
Yes.
And then another thing I would say is um, the healthcare professionals, I think, they rely a lot on what they've learned in school, but how about we also look at, how other people are living their lives, different cultures, and
Hmm.
how they're having children at an older age in other countries, and they're perfectly fine. And then also like reflect on studies where, there are women that are 40 plus
Hmm.
and follow those studies and share those types of studies where people are perfectly fine and their
Yeah.
kids are perfectly fine, instead of just always focusing so much on the risk and the
Yeah.
negative, because the more that we read and hear about these negative associations with having children later in life, the more some people are just like, well, maybe I shouldn't have a child at 42, or maybe 46, 47 is a little bit too old. But,
Hmm.
if you look back in the day in Bible days, people were having children
Hmm.
way older. And I remember
Yeah.
a good friend of mine made the comment one day. She said, as long as your womb can produce, then your womb can produce. And I agree. Like, as long as you're able to produce and that's what you want to do, hey, pray about it, seek your higher power, whoever that is, and just have at it. I don't think there's a problem whatsoever. But yeah, the health professionals, like, we just need a whole revamp when it comes down to
Hmm.
um, having children later in life,
I
because a lot of
agree.
it is there's also a lot of unconscious bias related to that too. The
Hmm.
doctors were very interesting that I interacted with. They were sending me to specialists when my blood work and everything was perfectly fine. Like, why are you sending me to a specialist when there's nothing wrong with my blood work? Oh, well, this is just something that we do when women are over 35. Okay.
Mm.
So, necessary but unnecessary at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. It's like when their words that they use to describe women after a certain age, it can instill this fear in you, or this put this hesitation in you where you're just like, maybe I shouldn't do this because I don't want to have to deal with these type of health issues or worry about if I'm going to die because
Mm,
I'm having
that
a
too.
baby at a later stage. And
Yeah.
as you were talking, it made me think about we saw on social media. Dr. Jackie got a lot of heat for what she said about women being pregnant and making sure that they're being honest about the things that they're saying. And then my mind went to one of the episodes here that she had in this past season, um, where she was talking to the brat. And the brat, of course, is older. She's knocking, I think she's almost 50 or getting ready to turn 50 soon. And excuse me, I shouldn't say older because I'm older. I guess I shouldn't say that. But she's almost 50. And she was, Dr. Jackie was talking about how when you get older in age, the risk of death is higher and all of these other things. And I'm just like, man, it's always the negative. But what's the
Me
positive
too.
about having a baby at this stage in life? And you're
Mhm,
right, women in the Bible days, when we think about Sarah, Sarah had a baby at 90 and she
mhm,
laughed. She
mhm.
laughed when she found out because baby, I would have laughed too. 90 years old. Can you imagine yourself being 90 years old, getting
Now
ready
that
to push out a baby?
I was rather not at 90. Mm-mm. But
You
still.
say, I don't know about all that now, but and I know that the world looks different now because the way that they took care of themselves back in the day is different than what
Mhm,
we do now. But
mhm.
I'm with you. I wish the messaging that doctors use would change. And there is some hope out there for women who do still choose to have kids later in life. And yes, there are these women I'm about to mention, they have money, but they are also, if you have to say, at risk as well, that the doctors like to use. You have Halle Berry, who had a baby at a later stage. Janet Jackson had her son at 50. So it can be done, but I would love to hear more of the positives, especially when I'm seeing things on TV or reading, because I have read articles. Even when I was doing my research for this episode, I saw so many women who had their children. They tried and they tried. Some tried and it didn't work until they got in their 40s. And
Yeah.
then one had twins, and then somebody else had three. And
Mhm.
there are some joys with having children at a later stage in life. Yes, your energy may not be the way it was in your 20s, but it's still some energy there, to
Exactly.
still to spend with your children. So I definitely am pushing and hoping for that message to change for doctors. Maybe I need to inbox Dr. Jackie. Y'all need to use some better
Oh,
language.
and you know what? I it didn't even pass my mind that, oh, I could potentially transition from,
Hmm.
having a child this late or at this age. It did not pass my mind because I'm of the mindset that I could transition going outside,
Yes,
riding, driving around here, there, or wherever. I could have a heart attack working out. Anything could happen, you know? It doesn't have to be, oh, you're giving birth. You could be giving birth and transition at the age of 20, 30,
yes,
any age.
yes,
Anything can happen.
yes.
People have blood clots and all sorts of things that could take them away. It doesn't necessarily have to be, because they're giving birth after 40.
Right, right. And we see what happened with Serena Williams with her first child.
Mhm.
She had blood clots and totally different story, but doctors
Right.
didn't even want to take her seriously. But if anything can happen at any age, you are absolutely right. And so I think in having this conversation with you today, I'm hoping it gave me some hope. Now, Grant, I ain't finna have no kids. I'm just saying it gave me some hope
Hey, watch
that
what we the atmosphere, remember?
that is true. But I believe with this one, that one is gonna be a permanent one. I think I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'll keep taking care of the babies and sending gifts and stuff like that. Um, but I feel like this conversation instills some hope in me, and things that I can share with women as well who may still struggle with not having kids at this age, or may have that guilt about not
Mm.
having children at this age, or they may just feel like, you know what, this is something I really want to do, but because the doctors say this, I'm afraid to do it. So it gives me some hope, with things that I can share and some information I can share. And I'm hoping that this also instills some hope in the listeners and those of you who are watching, that there is still hope for you to have children. It is not the end because you are someone that is over 35 or in your 40s or even your 50s. There is still hope for you to have children. Um, as Coach Ree mentioned, talk to your healthcare provider, make sure everything is okay and in working form, and do what you have to do. Do what you have to do to have your baby. So I love that. Any last words of advice that you would like to share with our women who may still be struggling with that uncertainty? I'm hoping that this really helped a lot for them. But any advice for those who may still have some struggles, or with uncertainty, or about pursuing motherhood at this stage?
Yes, I would also say trust your gut. Trust your gut. Listen to that still small voice that's within you, that's guiding you to decide what it is that you want to do. Don't allow the world to dictate and influence how you want to live your life. Like if you want
Mhm.
5 kids, have your five, try to have your conceive your 5 kids. If it's in the cards and you really want to conceive one kid, then try to, conceive that one child. But yeah, really don't allow the world to tell you what you should or shouldn't do when it comes down to the possibilities, because the
Yes,
possibilities are, they're limitless.
yes, I love that. Limitless, limitless. All right. Thank you for being here and for sharing your journey and your story, and also instilling some hope, and encouragement into our listeners today. Um, I would definitely love to see a day in the life. I think I talked to you about that. I think it was last year. Do a video about the day in the life. I would love to see a day in the life of
Mm.
Coach Ree. Like, what does a day in the life look like for Coach Ree? Um, when you decide to do that, just tag me, because I've always been interested
Well,
in that. Yeah,
I sure
personally.
will.
How can the listeners follow you to learn more about the work that you do, and then also um, watch your journey unfold?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Alternative Approach Coaching, or on my website, which is www.alternativeapproachcoaching.com. I'm also on the Insight Timer app, where I have a group for busy moms. It's a busy moms group.
Mm.
And lastly, I am going to be conducting meetup support groups for single moms as well as for special needs moms on the meetup.com app. So
Yeah,
you can check them out there. And those are virtual meetups that will be happening over the next couple of months. So you can follow me on any of those platforms. Feel free to reach out, DM me, any of the things. I will be happy to connect with you all.
nice. And I'll also post those in the description. I will get those additional links from Coach Ree about the meetup, and also the Insight Timer. And I'll post those in the description of this episode. So and I also have our Instagram and everything else linked. So if you want to follow along, join one of those groups, you will have an opportunity to do so.
Yes.
Ah, and I'm over here just cheering her along, like, yes, yes, she
Thank
is
you.
doing it. She's doing it. And I love to see it. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I would love, love, love to hear how you feel about this conversation. Leave me a review, subscribe to the episode on your favorite podcast platform, and in the Facebook group Navigating Life After 40. Until next time, I will see you all later. Have a great rest of the day. That's a wrap for this episode of Navigating Life After 40. I hope you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. If you love what you're hearing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps me to reach more amazing women like yourself who are trying to navigate this amazing life. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep living your best life.